And that's why we've gone ahead and aggressively said that we will only charge basis your salary and will only take a percentage of that salary, so that the ROI is always assured.
So that's a very inspiring road, and also for an MBA student like me, this is more or less like a dream pathway to walk on.
I wouldn't say dream pathway because it has like traversed its trajectories differently, but yeah.
But just for the sake of creating real value. So yes, students do exist who want to travel that path just the way you do.
Top private universities, name any that come up in your mind. The fee that they give to these faculty members, visiting faculty members, versus what we give is 5x. Okay.
So, sir, for the audience, can we start with a quick introduction of what Crucible is, and then we'll come to your profile?
Sure. Okay. I think Crucible, very simply, is a new format modern business school, right? And it is built for a specific kind of student cohort, which largely is basically saying that students who want to start their career in the most meaningful way, but unfortunately, fortunately, whatever, are not in the top 10 percentile of CAT givers, right? We're basically saying that if you can crack that top 90% plus percentile in CAT and get into those top 60, 70 colleges, it's a great story because those are great colleges. But beyond that, the quality is really questionable in terms of quality of teaching, quality of placements, relevancy of curriculum, etc., and real skill building. And hence we're saying that somebody who is not in top 90 percentile plus doesn't necessarily mean that they are not good enough, and also stand an equal chance of getting a good start to their career if given the right guidance, which colleges beyond the top 70 don't, right? So what's the alternate to that gap is what we are providing as Crucible. And we're simply saying that you don't have to be just a score on a mark sheet. We judge your potential instead of your percentile. And if you have got that capability of putting in the right amount of effort and doing well for the future, we don't care what you've done in the past. We're ready to put in the same amount of effort with you. And these 2 years, if you can transform yourself, we're there to guide you in that transformational journey. And we're saying that today's modern businesses don't necessarily need a perfect quant score or a perfect verbal score. They require a lot of different kinds of skills that can be built over 2 years if the student and the college is ready to put in the right effort.
And when we talk about Crucible, there's also a lot of talk involved about the fee structure that you're offering. That's the talk of the town primarily, if I have to say. So please double click on that. What exactly is the fee structure?
Yeah, so I mean, we're simply saying, and I'll go back a bit and explain why we are also doing that. But the simple fee structure is that we're saying that you pay as per the salary that you get. Your fee is basically linked to the salary. It's not a fixed amount. It is a variable amount, and it is capped at 75% of your salary. So you earn more, you pay us more. If you don't earn as much and below expectations, you also pay lesser, so that the burden on the student is also proportionate to the salary that they're able to earn, right? And while that is the one-liner to it, I'll also explain the philosophy why we're doing that. Basically, we're saying that, I mean, education ultimately is a business, right? And the customer of this business is the student on one end and the industry on the other end, right? The current MBA colleges are not providing the right service quality to either the student or the industry. To the student, there is no objective benchmark of how do you measure quality of learning. The only objective benchmark is placement outcomes, but those are also not reported properly. They're not 100% reported, inflated numbers, etc. And even if they get reported, there is no objective linkage of the fee towards that placement outcome. I mean, same kind of colleges providing similar kinds of placements, you see such a wide spectrum of fees that they charge, right? So there has to be some ownership of the outcome that the colleges are delivering, because that's their core business. And the best way to measure that ownership of outcomes is saying that, very simply, if you're able to get a student placed for higher salary, you are allowed to charge more. But if you can't, there is no reason why you should be charging more, because anyways, on the quality of learning, you're not doing something great because your curriculum is outdated. The people who are teaching don't understand modern businesses, right? So there's no objective measurement on the input side of things, which is the quality of learning. So at least on the output, you need to become objective. And what is the risk that the college is taking? All risk is with the student. The colleges also need to take equal amount of risk, because this does not work for the student otherwise, right? And that is why we are saying that if we are confident of the quality of learning that we're delivering, if we are confident of the industry exposure that we're building for the students, if we are confident of the relevancy of the curriculum because we've built it with the businesses, we should also be able to own those outcomes. And to prove it to the students, we're saying that, hey, we earn as much as you earn. Our success or our failure is linked to your success and your failure. And that's why we've gone ahead and aggressively said that we will only charge basis your salary and will only take a percentage of that salary, so that the ROI is always assured. Right. See, for example, what happens is students are saying, okay, I may get a salary of 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs. That's okay. But don't charge me 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs as fee for that. Right. Because otherwise I'm getting out of the college with a lot of big burden of loan on me. Right. And we're simply saying that whatever your salary is as a starting point, you should not carry the burden of the loan against that. Right. And hence, we are assuring an ROI by limiting the fees at 75%. So that's the big bet. And because we've so confidently built the learning in the background and the industry network in the background, we're confident of delivering this and owning that risk along with the student.
Well, yes, rightly quoted by you that this is a risk, right? As a business. So if we look at Crucible as not as a business school, but as a business altogether, as you rightly pointed out, that education is a business in the country. This model that you're offering, the fee structure, and also the kind of curriculum that you're offering, which comes with a cost, definitely. This is entirely a risk. And now, if I have to bring in the angle of placements, me as an MBA student, where I have seen this happening right in front of my eyes just last year, that placement is a function of market, placement is a function of economy, placement is a function of luck in most of the cases. Don't you think that this risk is not a very calculated risk to take on a student who might just be a very good student but not be able to land up in a good position or in a good paying role, in a high paying role? So from a business point of view, the institute suffers. Don't you think so?
So, I mean, obviously that can happen. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that if the risk is entirely on the student and the college doesn't participate in that risk, that's also not right, because otherwise the colleges can take it very, very easy, which is what exactly is happening, right? If the colleges weren't allowed to take it this easy, there should be two things that need to happen with the education industry and MBA education industry. One is your fees has to be linked to the salary, whatever that number is. I mean, for us it is 75%. For other colleges it can be 100%, etc. But there has to be some linkage. And the other thing that can also change and should change is if you're not able to place a certain number of students, your number of intake, the quota that you're able to intake next year should go down by that number. So you have 500 seats, but you've not been able to place 100 students out of that. Next year, you should only be allowed to intake 400 students because you don't have the capability of placing more than 400 students, right? So that's for the other colleges. But for us, while it carries a risk, we're saying that we mitigate that risk by various ways. Okay. One, see, in a very bad scenario like COVID scenario, obviously it's a problem, right? We're not talking of those extreme scenarios. We're talking of steady state scenarios. And in that case, obviously there will be one odd student who might not get placed, etc. But there are conditions on the student side also. It's not a free lunch for the student as well. There is a certain requirement of effort from the student's end, which is measured very objectively every month, every term, every year, right? So the students also have to keep up their end of the bargain, saying that minimum amount of effort is being provided, and students get a report card every month saying that have they done that or not, right? Because I mean, this does not work if the effort is not also put in equally by the student. So that's one, right? And the moment we realize that the student is not putting in the right amount of effort, this benefit does not apply to them, because we've built this whole benefit to benefit the right student and not have it as an easy way of scamming the system. I mean, people who want to scam the system anyway is not part of Crucible ecosystem, because we want really genuine students who really want to do good work and put in the right effort to improve their career. So that's one, right? Which also includes attendance, which also includes certain part of grades, which also includes the amount of effort they're putting into live projects, etc., etc. So that's one. The other is basically we're saying that we've always kept realistic salary expectations. So we're not saying that, oh, you can easily get a 15 lakh salary or an 18 lakh salary just because we're a modern B school. We're saying that the market reality hovers around that range of 8 to 12 lakh per annum salary, which is where the entry level and mid management salaries currently function, right? Because why are the colleges struggling to show consistent placements with increased batch sizes? Simply because the industry demand doesn't exist. It was an inflated demand that was portrayed saying that, oh, there are so many jobs available at 15 lakh plus. But even if you pull out top 200 colleges data or even top 100 college data in the country, you will see that beyond the top 40, 50 colleges, the average drops down significantly to 12, 14 lakhs, right? I'm sure you've seen the extremely new IIMs placement reports for this particular year, and the
Yes, yes,
averages
yes.
have gone down as low as 12 lakhs, right? Which
Yeah.
is the true reality of the industry. I mean, those 20 plus lakh jobs don't exist in that quantum, right? And as long as we are realistic about what is the industry demand and we are working with the right set of companies, the other problem, one is unreal expectation, and the colleges want to do it because they want to push their fees. Because अगर मैं salary 8 लाख की बोलूंगा तो फीस 15
Hmm.
लाख किस basis पे charge कर पाऊंगा. So they want to push that narrative saying कि fees बढ़ेगी, salary बढ़ेगी, which is not happening. And this cycle will correct itself, and rationalization within the students will happen automatically over the next 2, 3 years. But that's the first thing: realistic salary expectations. Two, it is the kind of companies we work with, right? We very clearly said that if the curriculum and the entire learning has to be relevant to the industry, we can't cater to all types of companies in the industry. So we have
Yeah.
narrowed down to our niche, which is saying digital first businesses, basically
Okay.
companies that have started 6 to 7 years ago with digital first approach are now trying to become omni channel. And within that cohort, we're saying that there is enough demand because there's so much that's happening. I mean, all of us have seen what's happened on Shark Tank, what's happening in the
Hmm.
startup ecosystem. The problem is all of these legacy MBA colleges have a set recruiter list that they keep going to every year. Those legacy recruiters keep coming, etc. And startup environment is generally labeled as a risky bet to take, especially after investing so much in fees, right?
Yeah.
So colleges don't really have an ecosystem to understand which is the right kind of startup company that the students can actually do meaningful work in. Whereas we have a completely opposite approach. We're saying that all modern businesses who don't really care what's the degree tag that a student carries versus what is the skill that they bring to the table, we are working with all of those kind of companies, new age businesses, basically. And because that's such a growing spectrum in the country, I mean, there's enough demand of the right talent, given that the salary expectation is reasonable, right? All of these companies require great talent, skilled talent, trained talent, which is ready from day one, because they have like really tight P&Ls. They can't afford to pay high salaries to a fresher out of college and then also, I mean, train them on the job. They're saying, okay, if the student is trained enough and expects a reasonable salary, there's enough demand. So that is the second point. We're saying that as long as we're true to that, there shouldn't be any particular problem. And if for a few students, in spite of that effort, in spite of all of this, if it
Yeah.
fails, it fails. I mean, that is the risk we carry. But I mean, that's exactly what keeps us like on our feet every single day, right? There's no possibility of us relaxing even when we scale because we take that seriously. We've built Crucible to actually add value to the student. Earning money through it is obviously only till a point that we can invest back in business and keep the quality improving through that additional profits that we make. But we're not doing this to like run it as a business that is like highly profitable, etc., for our personal gains. That's not the objective. And as long as we're true to that, there's enough money to be made in spite of this model, in spite of those risks, because the margins in education business are very, very high. Or other colleges don't talk about it as openly. We're happy to say that. See, okay, I'll give you a very simple example. Okay, our teaching fee that we give to the industry experts who come and teach, right,
Yeah.
is 5x of what the top private colleges in the country give, right? So
Is it?
take any, yeah, take any top 20, 30 colleges that are private. I mean, I'm not talking about IIMs because they're governed by the UGC pay commission, etc. And there are other
Uh-huh.
perks that the faculty gets. But I'm talking of industry experts coming from the industry and teaching. Top private universities, name any that come up in your mind. The
Hmm.
fee that they give to these faculty members, visiting faculty members versus what we give is 5x. Okay. So that's one
Oh, okay.
benchmark for you. And I'm saying that we still can make money with sizable growth in the next 1 or 2 years. Obviously, not in our first, second year, but as we scale up a bit, launch a couple more courses, and the batch sizes become about 60, 70 students, uh, we should be able to earn decent enough margins to continue doing good work. Right. And the other comparison is with modern B schools, right? I'm sure you've heard popular names in the modern B school arena.
Yeah.
We're paying our faculty members at par with them, but our fees is
Hmm.
1/4 of them, right? And we're still able to maintain the quality because I'm saying that, I mean, somebody who wants to do true education will find a way of balancing the margins and yet provide this great quality, which is what Crucible is doing. And hence, we are also different, not just from the traditional colleges, but also these new age B schools, because we've kept it very real in interest of the student and not extracted unnecessary margin out of the business.
So in short, Crucible is a disruption. kind of a disruption to the industry.
I think it is the alternate that the students are looking for, because see, I mean, it's not that the students don't understand. They very well understand that the choices that they're making are not very optimal, but they're forced to make those choices because there's no better alternative available. And we are building this for the real India. We're not building this for the privileged India. We are building it for the normal Indian family who definitely has a right to access great quality education without spending beyond their means. And that is the market that we want to like really address, because that is where the real requirement of good quality education is, because there's so much talent that just goes wasted due to lack of good opportunities, and we want to correct that for sure.
Okay, tell me one thing. Tell me if I understand the fee structure right. So it's 70% of the CTC paid in installments. 75% of the CTC paid in installments by the student after he or she is placed.
No, so let me correct you, not after. So they pay those installments the moment they join they confirm the seat. So for example, our admission will start, I mean, the batch will start for this year in July, right? So anybody who's taking admission now will pay their first installment right now. And the installment is total of 6 installments. So let's say 7.5 lakh divided by 6 is one installment, because we're saying that you can continue paying the money for the next 1.5 years so that there's no upfront burden. Typically, colleges charge it 60% at the time of admission or fully within the first year, etc. We're saying that 1.5 years you can keep paying. So every quarter they pay one installment out of the 6. So it's not after placement, because otherwise the cash flows will go for a toss.
Exactly.
And the other big reason is if I make it so free and such freely available to the student, the effort and the intensity from the student also goes down. But I mean, obviously the amount, because it is variable, how do you decide that, right? Exactly. 75% of what? 75% of average salary that we're projecting. So we've projected a salary band of 8 to 12 lakhs. And we're saying average of that is 10 lakhs. So if you assume that you're going to get a salary of 10 lakhs, 75% of that is 7.5 divided by 6 is each installment. Now, when you actually get placed, if you get placed for 11 lakhs, let's say, so you've already paid the fees for the 10 lakh projected salary. 1 lakh is extra in terms of salary, and hence you pay 75% of 1 lakh as an extra installment. But at the same time, if you get placed, let's say at 8 lakhs, right? So 2 lakh is what you've paid extra for, and hence we refund 75% of 2 lakhs to the student. So either it is an extra installment or it is a refund back to the student. But ultimately, once the job is ensured, the ROI is still that fixed ROI, and the fees remains 75% of the salary. So it's adjusted post placement, but gathered against an average projection in the first 1.5 years.
Okay, I love the structure, how it looks on paper, but I have this one ick in my head that how will you ensure internal to the organization that you do not end up doing the same that other B schools are doing? You're projecting higher CTCs, higher average CTCs, projecting higher average packages and charging higher fees.
See, I mean, because this is the first batch, those numbers are yet to be, achieved. But let's say there can be 3 scenarios. We achieve a higher average salary than 10 for the batch. We achieve exactly 10, or we achieve lower, right? Once we have that number for our next year's admission, we will use those actual numbers for this calibration, right? So if we've delivered 9 lakhs as an average, the admissions for that cycle will be done again 75% of 9 lakhs. Okay, because that will be a true average that we've achieved, right? Because we don't have that benchmark right now. This is a fair assumption that we've made, that if we have the right effort from the student and if we have done things right, 8 to 12 is something that we should be able to achieve. If we are able to achieve higher than that, great, or at par, also great. If it is slightly lower, we'll recalibrate our communication for the next batches and share this data completely transparently with full breakdown of CTC, so that the students are able to see what have we achieved. And obviously everybody understands that whatever we're able to do with the first batch, the subsequent batches are only going to get better. So, I mean, we have no worry about sharing those things in reality in detail as and when they happen. For example, the internship for this batch has currently happened 2 weeks into their internship, and they've started interning at companies like Tira, The Soul Store, Enrich, Theobroma, Park Plus, etc. So, I mean, these are like really large scaled up companies and really good roles that the students have gotten into, right? So that whole flywheel that we wanted to build with the industry clearly is proving itself, where the students are able to secure internships of their choice in companies like these, right? So yeah, I mean that's how it will happen, and hence we've been very realistic, Dhruv, because otherwise for us it would have been very easy to, instead of saying 8 to 12, we could have easily said 10 to 15, right?
Hmm.
The narrative doesn't change because we have the right quality of educators to prove our credibility. I mean, my background, the background of all investors that are on board, the board of advisors, the kind of industry partners we have lined up, all of that could have very
Yeah.
easily made us say a number which is slightly higher than 8 to 12. But we wanted to be realistic, saying that this is what the industry demand is. Numbers prove that, our understanding of the industry proves that. And hence, we have been very true, saying if you think that this is a true story that we are building and you can see the proof at the back, please join us. Otherwise, we don't want to convince you unnecessarily. That's where we are, because we're not here to fill seats. Yeah, a lot of colleges just try and fill seats. We're saying whoever is the right Crucible student, we'll take that student in, and whatever that number is, we're happy to operate with lower batch sizes, smaller batch sizes, etc. So we're not under pressure to unnecessarily claim a number which doesn't look right.
Okay. What is the batch size right now?
So I mean, 20 is the first OG batch, and we're aiming for only 40 to 50 students in the subsequent batch this year.
I think the admission process must be going on.
Yeah, it's just started.
Okay. So do you interview the students before you take them, and how is the process like? Is there an eligibility criteria that you should have a less than 90 percentile? Is this an eligibility
No, no,
criteria?
no, 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 no. I mean, one of our students has about 90 percentile in CAT this year who's joined us. So there's no
Okay.
eligibility criteria. See, I mean, we're saying that all traditional ways of measuring eligibility are not doing enough justice, because
Mhm.
modern businesses require diverse skill sets, right? Just because you're great at math does not mean that you can suffice the requirements of modern businesses, right?
Correct.
Because there is a lot of creativity at play. There's a lot of business awareness at play. There's a lot of street smartness at play. Are you a problem solver? Can you build with AI? All of those things necessarily don't need a quant score for that, right? So we're saying all measures of historic eligibility evaluation are not foolproof or not comprehensive. And hence, what we've done is we've said that if you've given a competitive exam and have a certain score in that, put that in your application form. So the process for is very simple. You fill up an application form. If we think that you need to go through not aptitude, but an evaluation test, we have our own test, or we use scores from what you've already given. And then we have two
Okay.
rounds of interviews, and both rounds are taken by the two founders. So me and Simran, who are the co-founders of the institute, take these two rounds. And I mean, we don't delegate it to anybody else on the team because we want to know our students firsthand, right? So application, test, and two rounds of interviews is what we do. And only after this, somebody who clears this four-step process, we select them.
How
But
many
yeah, in
interviews
terms
did
of,
you take? Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
I don't remember the number of interviews, but I think for the batch of 20 last year, we had about 150 applicants that we had chosen from whatever number of applications we would have gotten. So yeah, I mean, not all 150 applicants would have resulted into an interview, and especially both rounds of interviews. But yeah, I mean, I think more than 100 plus is what we would have interviewed for sure.
Okay. I'm sorry for cutting you. You were saying something.
No, no. I mean, and coming back to your eligibility criteria question, we
Yeah.
consider scores from all exams, but we're saying that that is not a measure of either your greatness or your incapability. If you've scored well, great. But we still want to evaluate your application as a whole. And if you've not scored well, or if you've not given any exam, that's also okay. We have our own test, and our test is different, because अगर CAT जैसे ही पेपर मैं बना रहा हूँ, तो that is meaningless, because CAT इतना research के बाद, इतने सालों की expertise के बाद बना हुआ paper, I can't do better than that. We're saying we want to evaluate differently, and hence our test is a 360-degree test. So it evaluates creativity, it evaluates business awareness, it evaluates problem solving, critical thinking, etc. And I'll give you an example. For example, there's a question saying that this is an ad, this is a tagline that the ad used. Can you write three more? Okay. There's a
Okay.
small problem that we give of a village saying that can you draw a solution to create interesting scenario for solving this particular problem? Okay. Or we have video questions that are thrown up on the screen about a real business. For example, this year we have a question on Netflix saying Netflix is doing this. Do you have a different solution to solving the same business problem, right? So we are saying that, I mean, there's so many different things that a student can showcase their greatness at. So we have 6 sections. We're saying that You may not be great at one or two, but you will definitely be great at some other thing. Can you pick that one thing and outshine in that area? And if you're great in one area, we don't care if your math is really bad or if your English is really bad, as long as baseline coverage is there. So somebody who's not great at math, we have extra inputs during the 2-year program to improve their basic mathematical skills. If somebody's communication is not at par, we provide extra support on communication, right? So that's what we do. We're saying that just because you've not scored well on a particular area doesn't mean that you can't do well overall in business of today's day and age.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So originally my question would have been around, you have raised 1.5 crores, right? Which is the number that's public. So my original question was around that, is this money enough? But as you've already talked about the margins that education industry holds, I would hold that question. And I would rather ask you, I'm pretty sure you're a very well-read man. You have worked with many big businesses. You have worked in top positions. And now as a founder, you must have done your math right. Before you have entered that investor pitch, what is in it? What is in your pitch deck that made the investor say yes for a revenue model that is so risky?
Okay. See, very simply, I mean, the simple answer to this is the typical VC world doesn't see education as a investable opportunity. And the kind of education we're doing a very slow, steady, high quality education. We're not into business of scaling up rapidly. And VC investors, unless they see 100 crore in 3 years and trajectory of 300 crores in 5 years, etc., they don't really like those categories of businesses. And education, the way we're building, will never be that. It will be a cash-rich business. It will be a profitable business with high margins. But that immediate scale in high-quality education is a myth. Anybody who says that high-quality education, the way we are building, can be scaled up rapidly is fooling both themselves and the external world. Yeah, so that's very simple, and hence, while we spoke to VC investors, we knew that the interest is not going to be there. That was just for basic inputs and understanding their perspective. But largely, the money that we've raised is with people who value education, right? So everybody who's on our cap table is somebody who's really passionate about education and wants to play the long game of building a high quality education business. All of them, have a personal wish of building an institute of their own. Just because they can't do it, they're saying that, okay, let me contribute to somebody whom we believe in, and let us do this through them, right? So that's the kind of people. And obviously 1.5 crores is not enough. We've put in our personal capital as co-founders, etc., to a sizable amount. And we've raised a bit of debt in our second year because we don't want to unnecessarily play the investment game, etc., because we know that it doesn't make sense for our kind of business. And we know the moment we enter into our second and third year, our natural cash flows will take care of operational break even, right? So as the moment we achieve operational break even in our second and third year, we should be good to keep investing back in our business in the long run. So yeah, there's no pitch to the investors because they don't like good quality education on a slow rate of growth kind of business.
Well, interesting. And I also, in the new generation that is coming, in my generation, I have talked to a lot of friends, and a lot of them share this ideology that they want to build an institute of their own, because we all are some way or the other fed up of the current education system of India. Yep. So I think there are like-minded people who are out there who are trying to serve with services like Crucible. And absolutely. That's definitely a phenomenal thing to see in a business world where people are actually trying to create value.
No, absolutely. See, the thing is, a lot of people and senior folks in businesses today, etc., want to contribute to good quality education, but they're not able to do that for one simple fact that, if it is just purely out of passion and interest, they can only dedicate certain amount of time, right? And they can't pull back time away from their regular work beyond a point. And to do it for a longer time period, the salary structures or the fee structure that the colleges provide doesn't make any sense. For example, I was a visiting faculty at NMIMS, and the amount of money that they were paying me, if I were to do it full time and compare it with the salary that I was making in my corporate world, there's no comparison, absolutely no comparison, right? And that is where this industry connect fails with education. That is what we're trying to say. And that is what I was trying to connect earlier, saying that the fee that we're paying to these industry experts has to be in proportion to the money that they might make if they were doing a consultancy assignment, right? So I doing a
Mm-hmm.
consultancy assignment, the money that gets paid to me should be the same as money that gets paid to me for taking the same amount of time for teaching. As long as that gap gets taken care of, industry will come back their natural passion to teach, because then it becomes meaningful for them as well from a practical standpoint. See, everybody wants to do good to the society, but वो मेरे को अगर कहीं और compromise करके करना पड़े तो automatically वो एक दो दिन में fizzle out हो जाता है. There are a lot of senior folks who've come and taught for 30 hours over a period of 2-3 months, right? तो वो effort वो डालते हैं because they one have love for education, but also there's a monetary benefit. I mean, I am very sure that the moment I take that monetary benefit away, they will probably teach one batch. But for me to have them again for the next batch, impossible, because it requires high amount of effort on their part as well, right? So there has to be that added incentive and added motivation beyond just pure love of education, because फिर वो ना वो दो guest lecture बन के रह जाते हैं. Then the education wala aspect goes missing, because it's just because we're calling industry experts doesn't mean that they are great teachers. We work with them a lot in the background to ensure that their expertise in the business world is also reduced to a simple level where the students are able to understand at their pace, right? So there's a lot of effort in curriculum building, course design, activity assessments, live learning, etc., that goes into with each faculty member, right? So those are the investments that nobody sees, and institutes don't make that, right? And hence that's again very important aspect of how industry will get involved in this.
Okay, sir, but आपकी ये बात सुन के एक क्वेश्चन मन में आता है कि you're saying at one hand that education is a high margin business. Second, you're saying that VCs are not interested in education. That kind of doesn't gel well, because if you're making high margins, that means higher profits. Higher profits means a stronger balance sheet. A stronger balance sheet indirectly means a greater valuation.
Yep. The only thing that is missing from this equation, Dhruv, is the speed of scale, right? I'll give you a simple example. IIM Ahmedabad today has about, let's say, 500 seats for the core program. The newer IIMs also have tried to emulate 400, 500 seats.
Yep.
Why are they struggling? Because education cannot be ramped up for 400, 500 students just like that. It requires a great curriculum that is tested over a period of time. It requires a great network of faculty members who can teach those many students. It requires that kind of alumni base. It requires that kind of industry connect, right? For example, to place 40 students versus placing 400 students, the amount of industry connect that I need is of a different proportion, right? So that scale doesn't happen overnight, whoever you are. Even if you carry the IIM tag, the story of the newer IIMs should tell people that even with that kind of legacy, that kind of brand name, education cannot be scaled up just because you want to scale it up that fast, right? And we know, forget that, internally we know that whatever level of investment in terms of quality, effort, etc., we're able to do with a small batch, we will also fail, Dhruv, if I were to do it with a large batch of 200 suddenly. I mean, there's a journey, right? So that is the gap in what you're asking, that scalability is not as rapid. I was saying 100 crores in 3 years and 300 crore trajectory in 5 years minimum, जब तक VCs को नहीं दिखता है, तब तक ये नहीं होता है. And if you have to do education really well, उतना जल्दी वो scale up नहीं होगा. So while everything is in place, that scale is not in place. So VCs don't prefer a 20% margin business that doesn't grow as fast. They prefer maybe a 4% margin business that grows very fast initially, because they want to like show return quicker, faster, etc., and not profitability necessarily initially.
Okay, so ये तो cap table की बात हो गई. This is behind the business. Now let's talk about the customers who are your students. What makes a student trust you when you are just a new institute, just landed, you have your first batch in the institute? What made those 20 students trust you? Because you had no results to show. You just had a number that we are projecting 10 lakhs as an average salary that we are targeting towards in 2 years.
Yeah.
But what made them trust you with this? Have you ever asked someone?
I mean, obviously, see, because all students who are, part of this OG batch, and a lot of other students who wanted to join but could not join for various reasons, family didn't agree, financials didn't agree, had a better opportunity, etc., whatever. I mean, so because, as I said, we've spoken to all students personally, right? not just the applicants, but also a lot of counseling calls I have gotten into myself because I wanted to understand the student psychology, etc. But more importantly, I mean, what did those 20 students see? And I'll tell you the broad elements that they saw. The first is personal credibility. They saw me, they saw Simran, right? So that built a lot of personal credibility because both of us come with a certain pedigree, certain background. And if we were doing it, there had to be a reason, right? And I think during those interactions, they saw the genuineness, the truthfulness, and the our purpose for which we were doing this, right? They could see those in different ways. That's one. Second, while we didn't have numbers to talk about, we did have all the ingredients in place, right? We had a solid curriculum which was based on industry requirements. There was proof because if you go to our website or see our brochure, the amount of detailing that we've done on our curriculum, no B school in the country has that kind of detailing on the curriculum, right? So one is the detail. The second thing is the relevancy to current businesses. You pick up job roles in modern digital first businesses and you pick up our courses, there will be an exact match, right?
Okay.
Which tells people that we've done our research on understanding what the industry needs and build the curriculum accordingly, right? So when we tell this to a student and we challenge them, go and read our curriculum versus the industry, I mean, the other colleges' curriculum. If you're not able to see a difference, I mean, we'll be really surprised, right? And we are able to challenge students on that. The third thing, which was point of credibility, was the kind of faculty members. So we, even before the program started 4 months in advance, 5 months in advance, we had put names of senior industry pros that were going to be a part of the faculty group, right? And that happened because obviously I have a lot of industry network. I mean, for two reasons. One, because of my IIM-A alumni status, which brings a lot of network access, and two, because of the kind of work that we've done, that I've done over the last 19 years. So there's a lot of industry network that I had. And because I have worked in senior roles, I had a lot of people who worked within my teams in the past who are actually on that faculty list, right? And if you see those names, they're people from L'Oreal, HUL, Marico, Bombay Shaving Company, Yes Bank, Tata Chroma. I mean, any large name that you put there is there on our faculty group, right? Lenskart, you name it, and the people from those companies are there. So that's, I mean, that doesn't happen easily, right? And they were the students, potential students were encouraged to go and reach out to these people on LinkedIn, talk to them so that the reality of all of that was established, right? And on top of that, there was a lot of conversation that we had. For example, each student that is currently sitting and not sitting in the classroom, at least personally, I would have spoken to them for 3 to 4 times and 2.5 hours put together, right? Every question that they had, every doubt that they had, every question that was thrown at them by their relatives, we answered for them, for their parents. And not just to students, we've spoken to most of their parents as well. And the moment we talk of the real stuff, we're saying, okay, these are the 5 problems that the current education system has, and this is how we're solving it. People believe in that. Obviously, I mean, we would have wanted a lot more people to believe in it, but I mean, we are very happy with the start that we had. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not that students only believe that one number, because everybody knows that the placement numbers are anyways not very accurate, not very truthful. And the right student who's frustrated would want to hear an alternate story. And as long as they're able to think with their free mind, they will believe us, because there's so much other points of credibility that we had built for them. And yeah, one thing that I am not, we also had industry partners, right? We had about 25-30 industry partners already lined up, saying that these are people who will provide live learning opportunities for our students, right? And some of those names included the Soul Store, Bewakoof, Park Plus, etc., and a mix of other young startups, right? Shemaru, for that matter. So the moment the students saw that, oh, the industry partnership is already strong, there was another set of belief that happened because of that.
Yeah, I saw that on your website, and that's pretty interesting to have industry connect from the first year itself.
Not just the first year, but 5 months ahead of the program starting. Because everybody in the industry believed what we were doing, because everybody, see, it's not just the student story. If you see the industry, they're also finding it challenging to hire the right talent at the right salary, right? So they're also saying that who's solving that problem for me of skilled talent at right reasonable salary. And they're very happy to say, okay, Crucible, please do this for us. Just to tell you a story, I mean, somebody from Tira came and took some master classes on consumer research and UI UX research for us. And that person was extremely pleased to know that students have gone through some of the things that they would expect somebody on the job to know. And they said, oh wow, how do your students know all of this? And we said they know this because we've structured our curriculum like that, and we've taught them like this because we know that this is exactly what you will need if you are hiring them in your teams, right? Similarly, D2C growth head of Soul Store has happily said that what your students know is something that my team also not everybody knows in depth, and I'm very happy to take them as interns. So I mean, the whole aspect of what story we built 1 year ago and the proof of delivery is now, I mean, showing for itself. And I
Right.
don't know if you've seen our content on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. We've put out all that we've done in the last 9 months with the students, and that invariably has evoked one response from all people that I've spoken to, is basically saying, I wish my MBA was like this. I wish I can study at Crucible again, right? So people who've gone through their MBA journey are excited about what we're doing. Why wouldn't a student be? It's as simple as that.
But sir, if I look at it from a business point of view again, currently you have 20 students, you are expecting a batch of 40 later on, but 10 years down the line, you might be touching a batch size of 100 easily.
More than that, I mean, I mean, right now, from whatever we understand and whatever we've projected, I mean, a batch size of 250 is manageable for a program. Uh, Beyond that, you will need to, and I'm saying with the kind of margins we would want to build into the business. Beyond
Yeah,
that, obviously, you will have to overinvest. See, what does managing more students mean, right? Managing more students mean the same quality of faculty available, right? For example, I have one faculty who can teach a class of 70 students, let's say. But the moment my batch size becomes 140, I will have to split them into two classes. Now, the same person may not have the time to teach two. Can I have
mm,
two people of the same caliber to teach that course? Okay.
yeah,
Uh, Doable, because in India, I mean, you don't just have one person, you can easily find 3 or 4 people who can do this. So, one is proportionately investing in the right quality of teaching, right?
correct.
Second is proportionately investing in industry engagement. And we have a dedicated team of industry engagement in house. We don't rely on student committees, etc. And there are dedicated senior people building this engagement parallelly, right? Even before the batch has started, etc. All of that happens. So I just don't do it myself. Simran doesn't do it herself. There's dedicated team who does that, right? So, and we have said that per student, I mean, so for example, per industry engagement manager, you can only have certain students mapped. The moment number of students increases beyond that, you will have to have more industry engagement managers, right? And the other thing is, what is the kind of depth that you're building with your industry partners? If it is very transactional, obviously this will fall flat, right? So that is the second aspect which needs to scale up. And the third aspect is the infra needs to be supportive, but infra is the easiest problem to solve, right? And the fourth is, which is the biggest problem, Dhruv, is the kind of personal attention that we give to each student, right? Today, I know the backstory of every student who sits in the class. What is their strength, weakness? What is their preference, liking? What do they want to do after their MBA? I know all
Mhm.
of that in depth. I know their parents for 20 of them. Can I know that for 250? Maybe. Can I know that for 500? Will become challenging, and hence we will have to have a lot more senior people who are passionate about education, like me and
Correct.
Simran and like a few other team members. That is the difficult part. Saying कि जितना प्यार हमको हमारे बच्चों से है, उतना ही प्यार हमारी extended team कर पाएगी या नहीं कर पाएगी. And that is
Yeah.
where colleges fail, right? Because जो founding fathers होते हैं, जो इतने बड़े बड़े institute बना देते हैं, उनका प्यार एक level पे होता है. But जैसे ही वो scale होता है, वो team किस level तक dilute हो जाती है, that is the big question. And that is what we worry, saying, can we build a team that loves our students as much as we love them? And till we are able to do that, I think we'll be able to solve the problem of scalability.
And that is exactly my question was you answered it before and only. But yeah, right. That's interesting. So with Crucible in the market, we've also seen a lot of new age institutes that you already talked about entering
Yeah.
the market, namely Masters Union is one, Mesa is one. So why do we see a sudden wave of new B schools entering the market? Is it such a big opportunity right now as a business, or what are the people thinking, or are they trying to really solve a problem of good education? What are your take on that? What is your take on that?
Let me name a few more because Master and Mess are definitely the poster boys, and great that we have that precedence because it just helps us to build that story better. But there are a few more like Altera, Scalar, Lit, Hive School, Craft Shala that are also doing
Mhm.
really good work in this space, right? But that is where the list ends. I mean, including us, there may be 7, 8 such colleges.
Yeah.
But when we talk of the problem in the education industry, it is across 3,000 plus MBA institutes, right? In India, there are about
Okay.
4,000 plus MBA institutes where 4 lakh students enter every year, right? 85% of them don't have a job or have a job which is paying them less than 6 lakh of salary, right? So the good quality ones are only solving for 15% of 4 lakh MBA students. 85% of them are struggling across those 3,000 plus colleges. So till modern good quality colleges replace those 3,000 or those 3,000 become similarly good, there's enough scope to doing good work in the field of education. And you're saying a lot of new names. I am saying there's just 7 8 versus 3,000 that needs to be balanced better. Yeah,
Hmm.
so you see the gap.
Right. So there's definitely more gap in here.
Immense. See, I mean, because the degree granting colleges have taken shelter in saying कि हम तो डिग्री दे रहे हैं, हमारा कुछ नहीं हो सकता, हम कुछ भी कर लें, बच्चे तो आते रहेंगे बिकॉज उनके पास ऑप्शन नहीं है। तो वो उनको पता है 4 लाख एमबीए हर साल आने हैं, कहाँ जाएंगे, यही 3,000 कॉलेज है, हर कॉलेज की सीट फिक्स्ड है, ऐसा नहीं है कि जिसकी 400 है वो सडनली 800 कर लेगा, नहीं ना। तुम इवन इफ आई एम द 3,000th कॉलेज, मुझे पता है कि वो 4 लाख में से कुछ ना कुछ तो मेरे हिस्से आ ही जाएगा, तो मैं क्यों इम्प्रूव करूं। ठीक है। जिस
Big
दिन
game.
जिस दिन लोगों को लगेगा कि बॉस अगर मैंने इम्प्रूव नहीं किया तो ये किसी और जगह चला जाएगा क्योंकि ऑल्टरनेट बढ़ गए हैं अब इनके पास, उस दिन सब अपनी चीजों को इम्प्रूव करने लगेंगे धीरे धीरे ना। तो दैट इज द गेम। अभी 3,000 कॉलेजेस को दी 7 कॉलेजेस से फर्क नहीं पड़ता है।
Hmm.
जिस दिन ये 100 हो जाएंगे या 200 हो जाएंगे उस दिन फर्क पड़ने लगेगा। तो या दैट इज द बिग गैप बिकॉज 4 लाख स्टूडेंट्स की बात है। हाउ मच, व्हाट इज द बैच साइज ऑफ एन ऑल्टेरा, मे बी 200। yeah, what will be our batch size in 1 or 2 years when we also become similarly tenured? 100, 150। 4 लाख में से ये 100, 200, 300, 400 मिला के क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा।
That's eye-opening. Yeah, to some extent.
So we are too happy. I'm saying that, for example, ex-dean of XLRI is opening his own college, First Bridge. And he spoke to us at length saying, kya kar rahe ho, batao. There's some similarly other in Let's Enterprises doing something really unique in UG space. We were in
Hmm.
Pune for campus recruitment at Symbiosis. We went them and met them, right? High school founders, we want to speak together. I have spoken to Altera's co-founders when we were starting Crucible to gain inputs on how do we start a batch, etc. So we want to collaborate. We are collaborating in a way such that education becomes better. We don't see each other as competition. We see each other as inspiration, right? And we just need to do it
Oh,
better. Yeah, of course. And everybody is very open to sharing their learnings, etc. Because somebody who's done this understands the gap versus the solutioning, and they're saying, okay, we can only do so much, right? Definite sharing of knowledge, insights, help, etc. is happening. For example, there's a professor Anand Narasimhan who's planning to open up his own small institute on brand management. He speaks
hmm.
to us very regularly, encourages what we are doing, we encourage what he's doing. There's a lot of collaboration that can happen, is already happening.
And I think the core reason behind the same seems to be willingness to create genuine value for the students out there.
Students, absolutely. The student cohort is also very differently defined, right? Some of these modern institutes are catering towards people who want to build their own businesses, want to be entrepreneurial, come from a certain family background, which makes it a bit easy for them to execute that. Some people are operating in the space of experienced professionals, right? Some of them are more into AI and tech related MBA profiles. We're saying that we're building for 0 to 2 years of WorkX or 0 to 3 years of WorkX kind of profile, and largely for somebody who's scoring 70 to 90 percentile in CAT. So that's our sweet spot, right? And even if there's overlap, there's this, just large numbers to cater to, and education beyond 400, 500 per institute is not. ISB has been 900 for a while now, right? In spite of having 2 campuses. So, I mean, all of that should tell us that there is a limitation to number of students per program. If 500 is the upper limit, you divide 4 lakh by 500, you still get a certain number of colleges. Until we improve all of them, it's not going to work.
Enough of the industry talk, enough of the Crucible talk. Now let's talk about you. For the audience, I'll just give a brief intro of Suchit, though quite late of doing that. But Suchit is an industry pioneer. He has worked in industry. He has more than 19 years of experience. He's an IIM alumnus. Moving forward, he started working with Nokia in 2007, then moved on to Performix. Then he worked with Sugar as a CBO. Also did a small entrepreneurship stint by the name of Bhukkadpanti.
Yeah.
Yes, and now he is the CEO and founder at Crucible. So that's a very inspiring road, and also for an MBA student like me, this is more or less like a dream pathway to walk on.
I wouldn't say dream pathway because it has like traversed its trajectories differently, but yeah.
But sir, if I may, students of my age, especially my batchmates, few of my friends, they do see themselves doing that. They do see themselves taking career break, trying their entrepreneurship stint, working with companies as consultants just for the sake of creating real value. So yes, students do exist who want to travel that path just the way you did.
I'm sure.
So, and to make a mark over here, it's said that an entrepreneur is defined by the layers that he or she has been through. And one such layer in your profile seems to be Bhukkadpanti, which I think you ran for 4 years?
4.5, yeah.
4.5 years. Tell us, what was Bhukkadpanti? Why did you stop doing it? Tell us the entire story.
So, I mean, very quickly, it was a subscription meal service, right? Your typical daily meals that you subscribe for a week, month, etc. I mean, if homely meals at 120 rupees, that was a simple business. So, we were doing about 600 meals a day at our peak. That was our scale. I think in terms of revenue, we were doing about 3 crores per annum in the fourth year. We decided to shut down the business in our most profitable quarter. So, yeah, I mean, the reasons of moving out were not related to business and financials, etc. It was purely personal because it was while we'd automated a lot of things, it was still a very labor intensive business. And to work with that section of labor, somewhere I realized that maybe my value system doesn't align. So either I change my value system and become like them, or I don't do this, because I've always liked to build a great culture, great value system in every organization that I've been. And somewhere I was not enjoying that whole ecosystem of working with a certain section of labor class and being forced to change my ways of working and my value system. So I said, it is better to call it off, because I'm not at peace internally with who I am becoming and managing them. Because whatever I do, it's not yielding results, but because with every level of scale, those problems only kept compounding, right? And there's a way to deal with that section of labor, but I didn't want to become that as a person. It's as simple as that. I don't know if people can understand that from a distance, but that's the simplest and the truest answer of why I decided to move on. And I decided that I will never do a business where the kind of people that I have to employ are very different in terms of their thinking and value systems than who am I as a person, right? And that is why education feels so right, because I've always loved nurturing young talent in my teams. Wherever I've gone, I've built teams from scratch and managed large teams to a scale of 250 people. Yeah. So, I mean, just nurturing talent sounded exciting, and to do it in an education environment makes so much sense. But yeah, that's Bhukkadpanti. And while I look back at those 4.5 years with a lot of regret, saying I could have done different things, more things, etc., or better things, but also a lot of learning. As you said, it's about the layers that we get exposed to over this journey. And I think great learnings from their beautiful time, etc. Wouldn't want to say that I don't want to live that part of my life again and would want to do it 100% differently. I think definitely added to the learnings, which has made me what I am today. So yeah, I would say that great experience as well.
Sir, can you pinpoint one or two problems that you were facing or which were clashing with your value systems during Bhukkadpanti?
Sure.
So that audience get a better view.
Sure. See, the thing is, in typical organizations which are like really sophisticated, white collar, etc. I mean, there's a whole concept of working towards a common goal, the employees aligned with the company goal, etc., and not having their ulterior agendas, etc. Whereas when we were dealing with that blue collar workforce, we realized that whatever you do for them, ultimately they will think from a very personal, selfish standpoint. They will not want to align with company's growth. The moment they will see that the company is growing, they will start creating issues, so that the dependency on them doesn't go away. They'll start demanding unreasonable salary hikes. They'll not allow the newer staff to get in and settle comfortably, because the
Okay.
moment that you adding more staff, the dependency on the old staff goes away. So whatever we did in terms of hiring newer staff internally, they would create scenarios where this new set of people wouldn't feel comfortable and would quit. The older guys would start demanding a lot more the moment they saw business was growing and increasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trust issues in terms of, I mean, obviously in a people heavy business you have to operate with some amount of trust, but the moment you realize that
Definitely.
that trust is getting I mean broken in pieces here and there, you can't really put too many checks and balances, and plus the reliability in that low trust environment goes away. And because it is a people dependent business and people heavy business, unless you are very sure that people will turn up for the job the next day, it becomes really difficult. And that reliability in absence of 100% trust also became an issue. And yeah, I mean, if you were to deal with them, you had to become like uh, them, treat them like non-humans in certain ways, treat them as just as a resource, as a tool for the business, etc., and
Mm-hmm.
not care for them, not try and groom them, nurture them, grow them, etc. That was not me. I said, I mean, if I have to treat them as tools and resources only, uh, I will not enjoy doing this for the long term, and I don't want to have an environment where people and team members can be treated as just tools for the business. I would rather work with people who share the same value system, who share the same passion, and are able to come together for a common purpose, which is what we're doing here, right? I mean, everybody who's a part of the team loves education to the core. Yeah, they want to be in an environment like this. You don't have to manage them as tools and resources. So that's the big difference.
I completely understand. In fact, as I already told you that I am working with my family business as a manufacturing unit. The exact scenario that you mentioned, it's kind of black, but we operate on a gray level. So there are instances where we find ourselves in that particular dilemma, but also there are instances where we are very clear that we only do business when we can make a great team, not a big
Correct.
necessarily,
Correct.
not as big necessarily, because that is the industrialist point of view of thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do think of it as business छोटा होगा चलेगा, टीम अच्छी होनी चाहिए.
Correct. Correct. And it is also about what affects you as a person. Some things affected me more as a person, may not affect as much to other people, right? So it's also about that. And I said, I mean, I can solve for this, but I will never be in a happy environment. So it's not about
Mm-hmm.
solving it as a business, but also deriving joy. Because if I
Joy.
can't derive joy from my own business, then what's the point of it,
Awesome.
right?
Correct. सर विथ क्रूसिबल जैसे आपने बुक्कडपंती के बारे में बताया, इट वाज अ 4.5 year stint with Crucible. Is there a little bit of ego involved? Now I want you to think internally for this. Is there a little bit of ego involved that you want to prove yourself as a businessman who can scale a business to a greater extent? Is there a little bit of ego involved there?
I think, to be very honest, I started with that thought for sure, Dhruv. Yeah, I kept
Mm-hmm.
saying that, I mean, this is make or break for me personally. This is my last stand. If I don't build a business of my own before I die, I think I will be unsatisfied, dissatisfied, whatever, right? But
Uh-huh.
that was 1.5 years ago. Today, when I have seen the students walk in and students getting transformed, I think I want to become a nameless entity in all of this, right? Crucible should be a true institute, irrespective of the people behind it. It should operate like a true institution, because institutions, while people build them, are not remembered by the names of the people who built it, but they're remembered for the institution itself, right? So that's the feeling now, saying that I don't care if my name is taken along with Crucible or not. I am happy to stand in the shadows, clap from far behind, if my students or our students are able to do what we want them to do, rather what they want to do, and with our support. So that is the joy. and we are taking it one student at a time, right? The only reason why we want to do it as a proper business is to maintain the high quality that we envision, right? Because if we don't do it as a profitable business, to maintain the right quality will become a challenge. And the moment there's a compromise on quality, it will only go downhill, right? So we want to operate it like a profitable business, that so that we can hire the best teams, we can onboard the best faculty members, we can provide the best infrastructure to our students. Infrastructure not in terms of brick and mortar infrastructure, but for example having access to let's say Harvard Business publishing platform for case studies, Ken as a subscription to read daily, right? All of that is available to our students. We don't compromise on that. A library that is stocked with all kinds of books that they can ever read. Any book that is not there, the students are free to order and read, right? So all of that is something that we want to provide, and that is what we want to aim for. Otherwise, yeah, happy to do it one student at a time today without the name being there, to be honest, Dhruv.
Lovely, lovely. You're definitely a man of conviction, a lot of conviction. Because see, I have this is the season 3 of Koi Nayi Baat Batao. I've already interviewed a lot of businessmen and content creators and different kind of professionals. I've You're one of the most philosophical entrepreneur that I've been talking to. So with all this conviction in terms of your education that you want to provide, in terms of the students that you have in your institute, in terms of the entrepreneurship values that you hold very close to yourself, is there a thought, or for you or for your investors or for the cap table or for your co-founder, is there a thought that with this amount of conviction, with this amount of trust in what we are trying to build, are we not missing out on something? Are we clear on all our risks? Because at the end of the day, business does not work on emotions, it works on logic.
Absolutely,
numbers.
business has to run like a proper business.
Exactly. Does this conversation arrive or arise at your table?
Yeah, very, very regularly. Okay. I mean, 100% you're right, Dhruv. And that is where a lot of mentors, the right people to surround you with, etc., matters, right? And hence, I was saying that everybody who's an investor is somebody who's passionate about education and is also a great leader in the industry, right?
Yeah.
So to have their opinion, their inputs, conversation with other business leaders outside that spectrum, saying that what is it that the industry demands, what is it that we can do. We talk to a lot of CHROs saying that what is your learning gap in your current team, what can we do about it. Yeah, so it's an ongoing conversation, and we keep thinking of newer programs. So while one part is scaling this particular program for this kind of student cohort and TG, what can we do for other? Because there's one big TG that also exists in our country, which is saying that, oh, I can't leave my job to do an MBA because मेरे family responsibilities हैं. तो अभी जो current part-time programs हैं, they're not great enough. There's no outcome surety, etc. And we want to solve for that also, saying a person who can't leave their job, what is the alternative for them? A high quality, practical learning based approach, which is hybrid with online plus physical classes, etc. What can we do about that? So that is one cohort that we want to address. There's second big cohort of students like you, Dhruv, who come from family business backgrounds and want to go back to family business. There are two choices. One, you join a generic program like you've done, right, from a great institute, or you go to a family business program that is like really diluted in quality, because वो क्या उसकी reputation बची है अभी family business programs की in colleges is something that students know better, and I don't want to talk about it right now. But we're saying that there's definite requirement to structure a family business MBA very, very differently, right? Because you have the advantage of having a family business to go back to and experiment your learning and put it to real application. Can we design an MBA where you, I mean, I'm not saying that we're doing this because we're still thinking, debating internally, but 3 months of learning, 1 month of implementation at your family business, come back, share what you've done, what you've not been able to do, learn more, go back. Can we break it up into parts where you learn, do, etc.? Can you use data from your business in reality inside the classroom, etc.? So that's another cohort. So I mean, I'm just giving you examples of certain cohorts that, for example, the third cohort is UPSC aspirants who, after 4 years of attempt, 5 years of attempt, are suddenly realizing that they have nothing, right?
Yeah.
Is there a certain industry role where they can fit in much better versus all other industry roles? And can we bridge the learning gap in a shorter period of time for them? and in lesser investment, saying that, oh, you do a shorter program and get into roles like these because industry will definitely value the kind of learning you've gone through in the last 4 5 years, right? We don't know what's the solution, but that's the thought. So hence I'm saying that we're constantly thinking of what more can we do, because we're saying students who have a certain kind of requirement for their career, industry saying that we need talent of this kind, and if you're able to match these different cohorts and act as a bridge of learning, saying कि ये student को यहाँ जाना है या इस industry को ये student को hire करना है, what is the learning gap? That's how we see Crucible growing. And we're not sticking to one kind of student cohort or one kind of industry requirement. We are saying wherever the gap exists and the alternates are not great enough, we will get into that space.
Me being a student, recently completed his MBA, I can vouch for this, that the kind of understanding that you have that you have of the market, it's quite precise. Because I've met every single kind of person that you mentioned, and I'm pretty sure you have more cohorts in your mind. And I have also different types of students who want to do an MBA, but not the generic one, right? So I think Crucible is headed in a very right direction. And to end the podcast, I have this one last question for you. That when you started Crucible, I'm quite interested in knowing that you must have had a understanding, right? So you, as you mentioned, that you had a little bit of ego also, that yes, I want to build a good business, a scaled business.
Yeah.
With that, you must have also had a lot of understanding of a lot of things, that how education works out, how students think, how employers hire. And today, when you already are running an institute where your students are doing internships right now, what is the difference? Is there something that you used to think that was right previously, but today you understand that that was completely wrong?
It is a 360-degree turn, Dhruv.
Oh, is it?
360-degree change. Yeah, I'll tell you how that change has also happened, since this is the last question. So, I mean, obviously, I had a view of education, and I have always believed that what I know is great, but I can always know more. And hence, I went to NMIMS and took up guest facultyship there. I taught 3 different courses to about 450 people, students in totality, across first year, second year, including the core MBA as well as the business analytics MBA program. Okay.
Yeah.
So I spent 6 months doing that, and still I was not satisfied, and hence I spoke to students like you outside that college and outside that institute, saying what's happening with other institutes, etc. I spoke to faculty members across different institutes. Yeah, but ultimately, I mean, my view of education was shaped with what I did in my MBA at IIM-Ahmedabad, right, which was very rigorous, intensive kind of education, saying you put people through a very rigorous, intensive journey, and they will come out like really transformed and doing really good stuff. And I wanted to apply that same model of education at Crucible, saying that extremely intense, rigorous, etc. And in the first couple of weeks itself, I was frustrated, saying that something is off and this is not working, right? And that is where, while I come from the industry and I've tried to understand education, a true educator, as my co-founder and Simran, helps, right? Because unless this great combination of business and education exists internally, we can't claim to bring that balance to education and industry externally, right? And she, being an educator, has really transformed the way we look at education, because the first thing that we started saying, because of her inputs, was okay, education for certain students who are like really competitive and what IIMA gets versus our kind of students, because of the backgrounds, the exposure, etc., very different. So same model will not work. We have to understand them individually. We're not teaching a batch in a way that a lot of other colleges do. We're teaching this individual student. What can we do for her? What can we do for him? Is how we started, right? And the whole concept of personalization, saying that how do we look at each student individually rather than a batch and fulfill their specific learning gaps, is the way we're doing things now. And that is the big transformation from one set model of education to saying that what is right for this particular student and to what extent can be personalized and to what extent can we standardize. Is, for example, we talk to our students every month. Between me and Simran, we sit down with them for 20 minutes every month and we understand what's working, what's not working. And this is a practice that we want to continue doing with them, right? No college at that level has any understanding of what's happening with their students, right? So yeah, I mean, that's the difference that has happened. I'm now saying that I want to become a better educator. I know nothing of education, and I'm becoming a better human being in that process. Yeah, so that's the big transformation, saying that from believing that I will build an education institute, I am saying I know nothing. Thankfully, I have a co-founder who understands education, and this combination works beautifully for Crucible and for our students.
That's really
Yeah,
great.
and the big learning for and this is something that I have been told is a lot of entrepreneurs enter into a business and get so married and attached to how they want to build it that sometimes they lose sight of what is right for the business and their customers, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, after those initial 2 weeks of struggle, I was able to understand what am I doing wrong, and I was able to completely detach myself from my view of how Crucible should grow versus how Crucible should grow for its students in the best possible way, right? So to be married to the solution uh, versus to be married to the problem is the big difference. I was not married to the solution saying कि मेरा solution तो ऐसे ही होगा. I was married to the problem that the students are facing. And I said, okay, if this is not the right solution, somebody come and teach me a better solution and I'll do it because I want to solve the problem in a better way rather than implement the solution I thought is the best solution. So yeah, big difference.
Lovely. And honestly, I am glad that you made that shift because again, as you mentioned, that entrepreneurs do get into a wave of building the business how in the way they want to build it. That is exactly why I incorporated the question over here. That what has changed, and I'm glad it changed.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm happy to talk about that change, except that I was wrong. And I feel happy that I had people around me to make me understand that. And together we are able to move forward in the right direction.
That's superb. That's superb. Thank you so much, Suchit. It was great talking to you. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed the conversation because I really did. Got to learn a lot about the education sector in India. And also, Suchit sir being one of the most philosophical entrepreneurs that I have had a conversation with. This is genuinely a different conversation, I think. Tell me in the comment section below, how did you like it? And if you have any questions for him, feel free to mention it down below. I'll try to get him to answer all of those. Moreover, if you like our work, we would genuinely appreciate your feedback down in the comment section. Share this conversation with anyone who you think this could be of value for. And I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay curious, keep learning, and peace out.